So hello and welcome to Shaping the Future. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Elle. I'm Group Account Director at TP Group. So if you don't know us already, TP Group are an award-winning network of specialist digital agencies, and our agencies are Roast, who focus on performance and media. We've got a website design and development agency called Kitty, and Rabbit and Pork, the voice experience arm of TP Group, which is Cockney slang for talk. So this is our first Shaping the Future event of 2022, and we're really excited to kick off the year with 3 exciting talks, followed by an incredible brand-led panel. So you're in for a treat. So with the theme of people and tech, how to get the winning formula, where will we gain actionable insights on digital and industry updates? So getting the event started today will be the head of SEO at Roast, Paige, who will dive into a data-first approach to building a website. That'll be followed by Ruby, our CX, Customer Experience Director at Roast, where she'll be giving us insight on how to leverage your tech to design powerful, personalized campaigns. With our final presentation from Rabbit and Pork's Managing Director, John, on how voice interaction is moving beyond the smart speaker. We will then close with our brand-led panel of Kyron, who's Managing Director of eco-friendly and natural skincare brand Balance Me, JC Oliver, co-founder of Recast, where you can gain instant access to exclusive live and on-demand sporting action, Hannah, Head of Marketing at Uptime, where you can access thousands of life lessons extracted from the world's best books, courses and documentaries, and Matt, Marketing Consultant and former Head of Digital at price comparison website Money Supermarket. So before we begin, if you've got any questions for the speakers in the panel, please use the Q&A section below. Feel free to use the chat function for any contributions you would like to make. We'll also have time at the end for any questions. So please bear that in mind as well. The event will be recorded so we can share that with you afterwards. So let's get started with our first speaker, Paige, Head of SEO at Roast.
Today, I'm going to walk you through just a 20-minute kind of whistle-stop tour of how you can build a website using this data-first approach. So before I get going, I'm Paige. So as Elle said, I'm Head of SEO at Roast. I'm very excited to bring this to you today. Those are both my Twitter handle and Roast's Twitter handle. So if you have any questions that maybe we don't cover today, or you maybe watch this recording when it goes live in the future, you can tweet at me or at Roast for any questions. So what am I going to talk to you about today? So what is an SEO's role in building a website? Now, I'm not going to tell you how to build a website today. That is Rob from Kitty and all of the Kitty team's job, not mine, but there is a huge amount that an SEO can bring to this work. What is an IA? I'll cover that in a bit. And then building a website data first, the actual process and tools that I'm going to give you, how you can go away and do this yourself. Brief recap and some Q&A. So if you have any questions, as Elle said, please chuck them into the Q&A or the chat, and we can crack on from there. So what is an SEO's role in a website build? You'll enjoy the visual. SEOs wear a lot of hats. We love wearing hats. This is actually something that I was inspired to talk about based on one of my AMs, Alice. She mentioned this at Brighton SEO. As SEOs, we have to speak a lot of languages. We have to be able to speak to marketing managers as well as developers and guide all the touch points to success. Fundamentally, when it comes to building a website, there's 2 kind of sides that SEOs do. We'll help build the website on paper, essentially planning what content you're going to have, what keywords you need to target, and the site IA, and also ensuring that the website is SEO compliant throughout the design, making sure you have descriptive anchor text, that it's accessible, it's not using too much JavaScript, all that fun stuff. This is what I'm going to focus on today, is the building the website on paper and getting it live. So what is an IA? Taxonomy, website structure, internal architecture, information architecture, everyone kind of calls it something different, and with good reason. People have different versions of what they think this is in their head. I like information architecture because what I'm going to do is map all of the information on the site and how it sits within the architecture of my website. In developing this IA, I'm basically creating an SEO blueprint of all the keywords you're going to want to target, all the pages you're going to need to be able to target those keywords, the hierarchy and like parent-child relationships of those pages, and the different roles of these areas across the site, whether that's like a resource or a blog or a product page. What an IA is not. This is often a tripping point with SEOs and clients combined, is that an IA is not the same as a navigation. Whilst the information architecture will 100% feed into the navigation has to do so much more than just surface SEO pages. It's got things like UX, CRO, and even legal to consider. So a really nice kind of explanation of the difference that we've found works is if you think about your navigation, your website nav, like your shop window. I can look at this shop window and I can see shoes, I can see dresses, I can see accessories. I kind of know what I'm going to get. And if I'm looking for something specific, I know what journey I need to go on to kind of get there. Your information architecture is like your stockroom. I have a shelf and a place for every single product that I sell. It lives in a very specific area amongst all of the very similar products. It's a lot more detailed and there's just a lot more to consider. So building a website data first, what is the process that we as SEOs go through to help plan this? First, I want to just touch on a few case studies. We do this quite a lot for our clients and we have really good success. So one client we've done this for is Aviva. They're a B2B software company. We ended up seeing a 75% increase in clicks to the site. And as you can see from the before and after pictures, just the footprint of this website was consolidated massively. We went from what was quite difficult for search engines to kind of navigate and get around to something, whilst it's still huge because it is an international website, much more consolidated, much easier to navigate and to find all of that content. Access Group's another one we did really good work for. We even saw a 200% growth in one of their HSC divisions. And you can see from the blobs on the left-hand side there, we went from like almost 9,000 pages to like 230. That's a huge reduction in content. And this whole process does look at that kind of less is more approach. Similarly for Experian, we did the same kind of thing, looking at 640 URLs and pushing them into 127 optimized pages, but also 46 new opportunities, because we're looking for opportunities in this process too. And these guys saw over 100% year-on-year growth based on this work. The beauty of this structure as well is that it's not just a one and done, as no SEO is, but you'll continue to see the payoff of doing this initial upfront work for months, if not years to come. So the process. Now, appreciate that was a lot of information so far, and it's only going to get more convoluted. This will be recorded, so if you need to go back or ask any questions, that's absolutely fine. But let's get stuck in. I love a process. So there are 8 steps to this process to produce a beautiful IA map and get that IA map from paper to live. This first section, these steps 1 to 4, are going to create that on paper keyword mapping and page mapping with everything that you could possibly need in it. The second half is going to get that paper IA to live, just from an SEO perspective. We'll get to that in a bit. We start with keyword research and tagging. Any SEO worth their salt will start any SEO project with keyword research and tagging. You need to know what are your goals, what does success look like, what are you actually going after. There is a nice deck at the top there, bit.ly/good keyword slides. I did a talk recently on how to do good keyword research for Brighton SEO, so you can follow that similar process there. But essentially what you're looking at is keyword gathering through things like Search Console, GA, product managers, a brand immersion day, something I love. And then you're expanding on that using things like Keyword Planner. And again, GA and Search Console, on-page analysis, competitor analysis. Again, you can go to the other deck to look at my other process for doing that well. The next thing we're going to do is do ranking analysis. So if you followed the How to Do Good Keyword Research Guide, then you should have a really nice list of keywords, roughly grouped into good topics. Now, these are going to help us identify opportunities. And the new site could be weak in some areas. It could be doing really well in some areas. It could also help us identify opportunities for search features by looking at people also ask and related searches data. Competition analysis is also something we can do at a keyword level. So by pulling ranking URLs, we can see if we have internal and external competition. So if you're a client with multiple websites or just one website or lots of subdomains, you can see if you're competing against yourself or against other websites in your portfolio. Or of course, looking at competitors, looking at those gaps in content that perhaps you're not filling, but your competitors are. This is all great stuff to pull together. All we're doing is pulling all this data together into one place. This is the bulk of the work. So there will be hours and hours and hours of time spent consolidating and combining and re-tagging and categorizing the data that we have in front of us. We're pulling as much data as possible into one place, color coding it, as you can see. I love a color code. And we're providing a kind of hierarchical structure. So if I'm doing a car insurance client, I know that my young drivers or under 18s car insurance is going to be a child of the car insurance parent page, and just working through like logic and search volume and CPCs and any other data that you've pulled together to indicate where your keywords need to go and how you want to map that. One thing that I always say to my team and to anyone I'm training, if in doubt, Google it. If you're trying to tag up or map a couple of keywords or pages, Google them and see if those keywords are returning a similar SERP or a completely different SERP. That's a search engine results page, sorry. So we've got our on paper website, that whole left-hand side, we've done that. That's kind of given us that beautiful, colorful Excel of every page that we think we've got and all the keywords and all the data. So that's kind of our SEO brain done. And we've got this map. But now we need to turn that plan into reality. There's a lot of stuff in here that will help you do things like redirect mapping. So because we have keywords, that means we can pull ranking URL. And that's a really good starting point to map existing sites to potential future state. But it's not everything. If you're dealing with quite a small site and you've crawled a site before, you can use a tool called Screaming Frog, which will go in and look at every single page on your website. It will crawl through links and other things, everything that website is, and you can find all the content, not just the content relating to keywords. If you have quite a large website, you might want to use something like OnCrawl, which is similar software. It's still a crawler, but it's cloud-based. So you can just let it run and it'll do its thing, and you can go back and go, oh my God, I have 300,000 pages, but at least you have them all now. If your website is massive, then you might need to think about making some rules. So if you have an e-commerce website, say, your product URLs and the products that you sell probably don't need to be impacted by this work. As SEOs, generally, we want category pages to rank for like broad queries, whereas the products would rank for product queries. So the URLs and the structure of the products doesn't really need to change. So if we're making any kind of changes to that URL, you can probably just say, oh, it now sits over here and over there. Find and replace all. Done. Dealt with. Mapped. If it's more convoluted than that, you might need to do this based on value. So in this example, we've pulled together Search Console clicks and impressions. So that's great. We've got a keyword to give us an indication of where we're going to map this to. But we're also looking at GA sessions and page views for all channels. Now, we can't overlook page views in this process, because just because content isn't landed on doesn't mean it's not valuable. So page views will tell you if people are navigating to that content and if it has value in that sense. So not just for SEO, we're looking at all the other channels at this point. Because the process we've got to so far won't consider things like legal, cookies, and other pages, we really need to make sure we're liaising with the respective teams to take what we've mapped and we've created as SEOs to reality, because there's so many other parts of a website build that just aren't SEO based. So just make sure that you're always being collaborative with developers, with marketing managers, with legal, with product owners. All of these people feed into this master IA. One of the last things we're going to be doing is content briefing. Now, we might have mapped some pages that need rewriting. Maybe they exist, but they're not very well written. Or, as is often the case, we have 3 or 4 or 13 pages all trying to target the same keywords. So this is when we need to do copy consolidation. And this is just kind of saying all these URLs are kind of talking about the same thing. Please, Mr. Copywriter, can you write me one page that just does it, just does everything? And of course, if we've done that content gap analysis, there might even be brand new pages we need to write. Now, this might be controversial. I don't believe SEOs should be copywriting. There are very good copywriting companies out there, or internal copywriters are even better because they know these products inside and out. But what we need to do as SEOs is provide like proofreading, check they're optimized, check they do actually fit that brief that we've been given, and do any kind of SEO code. Maybe there's schema markup, like article or product schema that we need to add to these pages. 7, now this is where we need to start treating this IA restructure as a migration. You might want to include other things like CMS upgrades or other technical elements like page designs. You might want to include all of this within this process, because you are essentially migrating from A to B, even if all that's really changing is your URL structure. So you kind of have 2 options at this point. You can gradually work through the consolidation of URLs and content and make these changes iteratively, building a new site as you go and kind of working to that plan as you go. Now, we did that with Experian and that worked perfectly well. Or you can do this on a staging site and basically create the new website, this kind of perfect state all at once, and then migrate to it. We do generally recommend option 2. This is a really nice statistic from Brighton SEO back in 2021. The cost to fix a bug found in staging is 6 times less expensive than when found on a live website. So this could save you money doing option 2. Finally, whilst that copy briefing and writing process is going on, that could take a very long time depending on your copywriting resource. So simultaneously, we can be working on the technical side of things. We could be doing those page redesigns. We can be doing the redirect mapping and the code writing and the crawling, and just making sure that everything is going well as we go. Because if you wait until the end and all the copy is written, and then there might be loads of stuff to clear up, it's just not very effective, not a good use of time. And finally, whether you're happy with the staging site and the redirect mapping and the designs and everything's healthy, it's time to go live. There are so many other steps within this migration, but that could be a whole other talk in of itself, and we only have a brief amount of time. We could talk about that if you want to know more, but let's go live. And then you monitor. And finally, with some nice benchmarking reports in place, we can really start tracking the success. And more importantly, identify any potential losses in traffic. If maybe a page has had a no index left on it or something, and we're not seeing what we thought we'd see, we can immediately go in and fix those issues. So reporting and tracking is vital. So I think, again, I have whistled through this subject, but again, happy to have Q&A. What have you learned? So this is the 8-step process from keyword research to go live and monitor. This is the top level view of everything that an SEO should be doing to produce a website using data. To summarize, your IA and navigation are linked, but they are separate things. Think of your shop window and your stockroom. Combine all of your data sources to be as insightful and future-proof as you possibly can. As SEOs, we are often blinkered by our own data, but don't forget to consider page views and other content that is valuable. And treat this work like a site migration. unless you're building it and you don't have a past date and you can just follow this exact process from scratch, if it's building a website from nothing. But it is like a site build and a site migration, even if it's only the IA that's changing. Thank you. Any questions? Elle, have you got any?
Thank you so much, Paige. Yeah, if anyone, if any of the attendees have any questions, please feel free to add in the Q&A box below. There is just one that's popped up, Paige. Do you have any SEO tools that you recommend using?
Oh, SEO tools. Now, Elle knows that I could probably do another 10-15 minutes on tools alone, but for this kind of thing, Search Console, if you have an existing site, Search Console is your most powerful tool. That and GA. You need to know where the existing value is, so that you can retain that in the new state. You want to emphasize that success.
Thank you. Another one, what's the importance of building websites with data for the future?
Oh, I love this. So I think what we've seen a lot in the SEO industry is that websites aren't as difficult to make as they used to be. Like, most people can make a website. I can make a website. Whether it's a good website and whether it's actually doing what you need it to do is another question. And that's why Kitty and Roast work really close together to make sure, while they're building a good website, we're making sure that it's actually targeting the right keywords and has the right data to back up the decisions.
Fantastic. And another one as well, are there risks of breaking links that performed well historically, so you actually see a decline in performance even if better structured?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why redirect mapping is so vital. You need to make sure that any valuable links from particularly external sources, if you've got a link from the BBC, you absolutely need to make sure that equity, even if it has to go through a redirect, it goes to the right page. And making sure that you have mapping that isn't just all to homepage as well means that that equity is going to go to the right place.
Brilliant. And can you launch a website prior to doing any SEO checks?
I mean, you can, you shouldn't. I wouldn't recommend that you launch a website prior to SEO checks, even if all you do is use Screaming Frog to crawl the site, just to make sure you don't have any broken pages and that everything works the way it should do. One thing that is my absolute bugbear is trailing slashes. You'll go into a website, it'll be brand new, you'll crawl it, and all of the links redirect because they aren't using a trailing slash, but the page they end up on does. So every single link is a redirect, and it just drives me insane. So yes, you can, but don't.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Paige.